Well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. So this is a bit of a different approach. We've had our webinars, which are very much getting an expert to talk and then asking questions, whereas this is meant to be much more of a discussion sort of format. So the topic for today is lagging indicators. I keep trying to say leading because it's the one I always think about. And this has come about from our WhatsApp group. So I had a look back through at the discussion, and the question was actually asked by Alexandra Bourle. And his question was, what are the safety compliance KPIs that you're measuring in your organization, e.g. LTIR? Which of those you believe creates a positive safety culture? And last but not least, are you linking them to a financial incentive? So in the WhatsApp group, there was a really good discussion, but it would be nice to go into it in more detail. So the structure for today is that we've got 3 people doing presentations. So thank you very much for volunteering to do that. So we've got John Perez from Givaudan, Alberto Cosimano from DuPont, and Richard Spitzer from Eaton. And they're going to talk just for about 10 minutes or so about how lagging indicators work in their company. So it's meant to be a bit more than when you go on a training course and they say this is a lagging indicator, this is a leading indicator, because we've all been there. We all know what they are, but we also know that statistics, to lie with statistics, you can just sort of manipulate the data to make it show what you want. And so I'm hoping for a bit of first-hand experience about how you're doing it in your organization. You know, how do you collect this data accurately, consistently, and, you know, perhaps answering the question about if you have some incentive associated with it as well. So that will take about half an hour. And then we'll throw open the floor for some general questions. So I've put some questions together that we can structure it around at the beginning. They're probably ones that are going to be covered during the presentation. So what lagging indicators do you use? What are the biggest challenges? How effective are they? Where do we go from here? That sort of discussion. But please, if you want to ask questions, write it on the Zoom chat and then we'll go through them afterwards. Or because this is only a very small group, actually ask them yourselves. That will be the best option. So should we start with some very quick introductions? I'll say I'm Alison. I think I know everyone here. I have my beautiful Proactively office. I guess my interest in incident reporting is, you know, I've always worked with companies and we've had the incident reporting, and now I'm designing an incident reporting system. And it really has brought home to me how complicated it is, the different ways that you can do it. So it's a subject that I find fascinating, and I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion today. So next one on the, should we go down the list? We've got Dave is next on my list. Hi,
I'm Dave Gold. I'm a chartered fellow with IOSH, and very curious to hear what you have to say today. I'm been practicing occupational safety and health for about 40 years. Living in Genolier, Switzerland, and behind me is the Dome, which is the highest mountain in Switzerland that's surrounded by Switzerland all the way around it. I think that's enough for me.
Okay, thanks. John?
Yeah, John Pears, head of the EHS field organisation for Givaudan. So this is all of the site-based EHS people, not our centre of expertise experts. So I look after a global organization for Givaudan.
Okay, Alberto.
Yeah, I'm not the NE 549, but my name is Alberto Cosimano. I'm the EHS, the regional EHS leader for DuPont, and I work in the COE organization, so in the corporate organization of DuPont. So we have a different business. Maybe I can tell you a little bit more about what we are doing later during the presentation. And 15 years of experience in EHS, and I would like to share with you today some leading indicator that we track in DuPont, and how we also will link to the so lagging indicator, and how we link to the leading indicator, and how we follow, and how might be improved, and what we do to improve the reporting, but also the incident and the reduction of the incident in our company.
Perfect.
Can Nicholas, it's a little bit, it's Alberto, sorry. It's a little bit difficult to hear you and understand you. I don't know whether you have a double mic situation or something, but it sounds
Can you,
you're in
let me check. Can you hear me now?
That's
No?
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cole?
Sorry.
Is Cole there?
Yes, hi, sorry. Hi, I'm Cole McLaughlin. Work for Jacobs. We're an engineering firm. I work as a construction health and safety advisor. Recently graduate member of IOSH. Yeah, so I'm at the beginning of my safety career journey, so here to learn from you guys.
Okay, thanks. Frederick?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Fred. I'm French. First career in the French Navy, 26 years, and now 7 years in the private sector, mainly in health and safety and security. Currently in a security position at LafargeHolcim. I joined this company nearly 4 years ago and started with 2 HNS positions. And my previous position there was at corporate in charge of reporting for HNS for the group. So at the moment, I cannot at all talk in the name of LH for safety, maybe a bit for security, but certainly not for safety. But I'm still passionate about all those topics.
And Frederick is our newest member for IOSH Swiss Network.
Yeah,
so he
I'm the youngest.
actually paid his money and signed up. So thank you very much for doing that. And please encourage more people to actually join.
Welcome, Frederick.
Thank you guys. That's thanks to Alison, for sure.
Okay, Gitta?
Yes, my name is Gitta Bien. I am the Global HSE Manager for SR Technics. We do maintenance for aircrafts, so that's engine maintenance, but also aircraft maintenance. Before that, I was 28 years with Holcim. So, yeah, I know a little bit of that. My interest is more the leading indicators, and for the lagging indicators, I would like to get a little bit of insight, because with the lagging indicators, I feel that I'm at a Turkish carpet market, because it does have an influence of people's salaries. So then they always come and say, hey, we can't count that one because then, you know, my bonus. So that's why I'd like a little bit to see what the others do and learn from that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas. I'm the responsible for health and safety for Oriflame Cosmetics in Schaffhausen. What should I say? I mean, my interest here, look, I think one of the biggest challenges in our profession is to be able to convince our leadership of what they need to do and to give them the best picture possible from the reality in terms of health and safety. And we know that reporting accidents is not doing the job, or not alone. We know that talking about audits is not necessarily showing everything. So I'm really interested in learning, you know, what would be the best combination to give a view as close to reality as possible to management, so that it helps to make informed decisions. So that's really my interest there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've split it. So if we do lagging today and then leading in about a month's time, it just, otherwise all my discussions that I have with people go towards leading indicators, because it's the bit that we're all interested in. But they're both important. You need a mix of both. So that's why I sort of separated it into two. We've got Michael Cook here as well. Hi, Michael.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yes. So nice to be able to join. I can only join for a little bit, actually, because I've got to sort of hop into other calls. But as an introduction, I head sustainability, social responsibility for Jabil, which is a very large multinational company with about 270,000 employees currently worldwide. Just joined, so it's new for me, and that's why I'm popping in and out of meetings quite a lot at the moment, trying to meet my team remotely, which is rather difficult. But in terms of leading and lagging indicators, I think, as Alison, you said, you would much rather talk about the leading ones, but the lagging ones, I mean, my view is that we do need to have some of those, because we've got to see actually if what we're doing is right and it's working. And it's just like financial data, you know, you look back to see have you made your sales and your margins and stuff like that. But you don't necessarily feel comfortable that the future will look the same. So you have to also have something to help you make sure the future looks better. And I think we sometimes, you know, forget that, you know, if we're talking to senior management, they are used to looking at profit and loss accounts every sort of meeting to see how their sales and marketing is doing. And we need to balance that in the same way to say, you know, here are the, you know, where we are. We're doing some good things or bad things, and it's, you know, working or not. But we need to focus on these things to get the next sale or the, you know, the next no injury outcome or whatever it is. And generally speaking, to do that, I think we also have a danger of using too many lagging indicators. And for me, in the last few sort of companies I've worked for, we've focused just on putting TRI rates in as the only lagging indicator. When I first joined my previous company, which was also a very large multinational, the leadership team at the executive team took safety very seriously. At least they said they did. And they had a 30-pack safety stuff that they always started with. Of course, the reality is they flicked through nearly every slide because they didn't have time for it and never asked any good questions or you know, got much from it. And that was because we had, you know, lost time incident, we had seriousness of incidents, we had TRI rates, we had every single version of what you could possibly have as data in there. By putting it down to one slide with the TRI rate, we say, okay, what do you think about that? And let's talk about some real things now, not about the, you know, just flicking through slides.
Interesting. Okay, and I think just Anthony is the last person.
Yeah, thank you. So I can only stay till about past, but I'm an associate member of IOSH and I also work for IOSH. So I've had some past health and safety aspects to previous roles, but I currently, as a regional manager, am a liaison support for the volunteers across the Scotland network. I have long-term interest in strategic engagement and project management, but right now I work mostly with sort of stakeholder management and networking, and so leading and lagging indicators are relevant as far as making informed decisions and using data to, you know, project manage and horizon scan as well. So
fantastic.
Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. I think that's everyone.
I think you missed me, Alison.
Oh, sorry. The order kept changing. I'm sorry,
no
Richard.
No problem. So I'm Richard Spitzer, and I will be presenting today on behalf of Eaton, which is a US multinational company, approximately 90,000 employees worldwide. So I will discuss further about these.
Fantastic. I'm so sorry. It's the numbers that the names are moving. Should we start with John Perez, because I've made him co-host and he can talk to us.
Hey, Nikki, you can hear okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share something. First, is that okay? Am I able to?
Yes, yeah, you should be able to as co-host.
Yeah, but I obviously didn't read the brief properly because I put together our KPIs rather than just the lagging ones. So I'll concentrate on the lagging ones for this session.
Okay.
Just give me a second. And what I just put up, can you see that okay?
Yes.
So this is the set of targets that we put in for our sites, and it is quite a lot, but it covers environment, health and safety. So we have a basket that every single manufacturing site has to measure themselves against. So if I start at the top, so I won't go through all of it because a lot of these are leading indicators as well. But the main lagging indicator we have at the moment is the lost time injury rate. And I hate this. It's something I inherited. It was set, the target was set for 2020 back 10 years ago. And we said over this time we'd get to 0.1 or lower than 0.1 LTI rate. It's fraught with the usual difficulties. You know, you end up spending more time arguing whether it's an LTI or trying to get someone back to work than dealing with the consequences of the injury and making sure it doesn't happen again. so we are going to drop this at the end of this year. So from next year, I've only been able to move to total recordables, so still not a leading indicator, but at least it avoids the argument about lost time. So anyone who needs medical treatment will end up in the stats. The other difficulties we have with this is acquisitions, and then there's an argument: do they come in? Don't they come in? You know, if we acquire a company with a high level of injuries, and we don't want them in the numbers because it affects, you know, how the figure looks. And I can already say that this year will be over 0.2, so we won't hit this target, more than double this target. Yeah, it's just not very satisfactory. For the first 5 years, it was in, we have a profit share for all employees, which has a set of targets. And for the first 5 years, this number was in there as well, and we took that out, mostly under pressure from the European Works Council. But also, I fully agreed with their arguments, and it shouldn't have been in there. Overall, this basket of measures goes in the site targets, but as you can see, there's quite a few here, and when you add in financial, quality, service, you know, it becomes quite diluted. So it doesn't have too much impact, but the basket overall does tend to go into the management objectives at site level, and therefore has an influence on their incentive plan. From next year, total recordable will be part of our long-term incentive plan, which is the senior executive bonus. So in the past, it's purely been done on sales and on cash flow, but from next year, it will include a few other things in there based on our 2025 strategy and our business purpose. So, but it moves in the right direction. I think total recordables is a better lagging indicator than lost time incident rate. And we have this sort of tagline of everyone home safe every day, but because of the way we're dealing with acquisitions and non-operation sites, it isn't everyone. Also from next year, it will be everyone. So everyone's in scope, every site and every employee, and then we'll just have to integrate the new acquisitions if there are any as they come along. I guess some of the other things on here that are also lagging, there's a kind of mix, and there's always some of these you can argue whether they're lagging or leading, but you can see a number of more leading indicators in there, which should reduce the chance of injuries. But of course, as EHS, it's not just safety. So we also have our sustainability targets in there as the basket, so greenhouse gas, water consumption and waste. So every site reports those quarterly. But obviously that's then a consumption, so it is lagging. It doesn't tell us how to improve that. And the old strategy, which we're moving into the new phase now, we have 3 pillars to our EHS strategy, which was called trust, risk and culture. And the trust score was based on the internal audit compliance, which is also a lagging indicator. But then we measured, you know, the target was to close the gap. So if someone had an audit and they scored 60% on the audit, then this year, the target was to close the gap up to 80%, half of the way to 100%. So that then became, I think, more of a leading indicator to fix the management system for topics that show up in the audit to improve EHS on site. And I think the others are all about action completion, which is which I would call a leading indicator, because if we do the actions, then we will improve. We get a good indication of whether things are going to move in the right direction. So I think that's probably then, in a very simple way, the main thing around the lagging indicators. By the way, the environmental score will also be in the long-term incentive plan for next year, the achievement of our targets. I don't know if there's any questions on that one.
Do we want to ask a few questions now for John?
Yeah, Fred, maybe one, John, please. Do you have any fatalities?
No.
Okay.
So, you know, when we report the pyramid style and obviously fatalities is at the top, but we haven't had any, well, not since I've been in the business. I came in 13 years ago.
Okay. Because I was, or maybe I can keep the question for later, but I noticed that some companies are linking fatalities with LTIFR, adding a fatality like a year of lost time, or things like that. But I don't know what you think about that.
To be honest, I hadn't really thought about how we would do that. We did have a contractor fatality a few years ago on a construction project. Legally, the site wasn't under our control, and we don't report contractor injuries, let alone fatalities. So it has caused a lot of debate around how do we also capture, again, if we take everyone home safe every day, everyone who works for Givaudan, it must include contractors. They're doing work for us, even if they're not in our responsibility. So we are going to have a much closer monitoring of that again from next year. So we will report the numbers. We can't report the rate because we don't know their working hours, for example, total.
Yeah, classic problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll capture the number of injuries for contractors as well.
I have a question, John. In regard to the injuries, do you have, because I see that your target is a fixed target of 0.1, but do you have any goals which are decreasing of the injuries in regard to the previous year hand data or something like this?
So our lost time injury rate has improved almost every year since the target was set. 2009, which was the baseline year, we were 0.73, I think. So we have seen a good improvement, just not what we were aiming at. And it is the classic curve, steep improvement in the first few years, and then it's been fairly flat, although declining a little bit year on year. We also do monitor total recordables already, and we've seen improvement of that, but not the level I'd like. So those are the two on injuries, and we do see improvement year on year.
Yeah, and in regards to because for example, this year might be tough to match the target due to the fact that the number of hours of working has been decreased, and so it's gonna be difficult because the risks remain in certain operation. So in this regards, do you have any trigger, something that is gonna trigger an action plan when you oversee the target, or do you have any I don't know, safety campaign or focus? Do you go and analyze your
yeah, absolutely. So I was a little bit slow to the question, but yeah. So having monitored this, and one thing I missed is we also monitor high potential incidents, whether they're injuries or not, because often they're not solved by doing the small things. So we have a monitoring for that, which is also a lagging indicator. So when we have a high potential, we have let's say a special learning from events process where we involve our global engineering and global EHS engineering, because it's almost always an equipment-based issue as well, or engineering-based issue. So then we bring more expertise to the investigation, and we have a review and then share globally. And one thing we've seen recently with the hypos is more occurrence of product issues. So our new product introductory rules are not as good as they should be, or not followed as good as they should be. So we've been introducing, for example, products that have explosive characteristics that have ended up on the wrong site or the wrong equipment. So that's triggered a whole global campaign around how we improve that. And then we'll look for themes as well. So and we have some planned campaigns. We've been running a 2-year fire safety campaign, going in chunks of starting with waste fires, because we have self-igniting chemicals in the business, and, so that can be an issue. Moving on to static, moving on to electrical equipment, So we run those campaigns, and then we have ad hoc depending on the trends in the numbers. And so for example, we've done one on forklift trucks this year because we saw a spike in that. And we're looking at something just around hands, because we obviously human beings, you stick your hands in things and you get a lot of hand injuries. So and we've seen a little peak there as well. So we monitor the type of injury and see how to react.
Alison, I'd like to pose a question, if I may.
Go for it.
Yeah. John, thank you. Excellent presentation. I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here. I'm going to be a little bit cheeky, if I may, with you, John.
Okay.
Because in a sense, in discussions you and I have had, and also many of us in the room have had, our focus is always on leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. And in fact, when you talked about having a global campaign or different global campaigns in place around the world, or when you're talking about this program for high potential incidents, having the program in place, having the campaigns in place, they are leading indicators for me more so than lagging indicators, even though maybe the raison d'etre, the reason behind this thing is the idea that there's been some incidents, but the way forward seems to be leading indicators. So my question, which I'm going to ask all three of the presenters, if I may, is if you were in a position of advising a newly formed, newly shaped company that was setting up their safety, health, and environment program, would you encourage them to establish lagging indicators, or would you push them a little bit more toward the leading indicator to establish a company philosophy? And again, I'm being a little bit of a devil's advocate. I'm being a little cheeky, but I'd like to ask the question.
Well, no pun intended, but I think it's a leading question, because I think the leading indicators are the way forward for me. Not that we shouldn't monitor injuries. We need to know if we're hurting people. But the leading indicators are the ones. For example, if you look at our learning from events process, we're getting much better at investigation. We're getting better at sharing, but then the actions aren't implemented, so you don't get any improvement. So I'm exaggerating. We get some improvement, but they're not implemented well enough. So we need to put a lot more attention to the leading ones to get the right behaviors, the right response, the right leadership, and then the others will follow. The lagging indicators will follow. That's the nature of it. But it's this trap of, we measure what we can measure, and it's much easier to measure injuries than to measure some of the other things. And also, board members like benchmarks. LTI rate is a good benchmark. So they tend to go for what they can get rather than what's the right thing. So I would definitely push leading indicators.
And just as a follow-up question to that, which I think becomes very interesting, the idea is you indicated what is a challenge in occupational safety and health and environment, and that is that it's so easy to tag lagging indicators, but it's a challenge to try to develop leading indicators. I guess that will be the subject for the next session that we'd be talking about. But I think that's a very important question, is how do we, based on the company numbers, based on where we are, how do we develop effectively and powerful leading indicators and
we're doing some work on that. As you say, maybe for next time. So Alison, I guess I should hand over to the next.
Yes, I was going to say thank you very much, John.
Maybe Alison, just to add on this one, I think John made a particular interesting comment about benchmarking, because today, worldwide, what we can compare to others are really those lagging indicators and the total regrettable case rates, for example, because that's the only one which are widely used. So from an IOSH perspective, what would really make sense is as an organization, we could promote as well more leading indicators being recognized and used worldwide.
Yeah,
I think that will help a lot.
Yes. Agreed. Richard, I've made you co-host. Do you want to go next?
Yes. Now I just need to make sure how to share. Yep. So do you see my screen?
No, I can just see you.
Because it's showing that my screen, at least it's the border.
Yes.
Should be better now.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, right.
Well done.
So actually, I will just add on basically to what John said, but to two different levels, because we are somehow reporting at two different levels in two different contexts. There are some, let's say, operational meetings and EHS meetings somehow. So when you are discussing for and sharing with others on dedicated EHS meetings, we are having, I would say, more indicators. But the more you get up into the organization and have operations meeting with not only EHS presenting, but the entire functions going to the leadership and showing performance, today we are limited to lagging indicators. And the one we are using that you can see here, I can maybe try to put that a bit bigger, hopefully. Up. I need to change. So for us, at Eaton is the total recordable case rate and the number of severe injuries. And that is combined with the other functions, so with the quality and the cost of non-performance and the default parts per million for customers, deliveries, inventory, and productivity. So this high five table is really what is common all across Eaton and shared with everyone knows that by heart. And that's what we are using during those operational calls and to create our targets. And we are using a kind of a glide path. We have a target that has been recently communicated for 2025 with the entire organization to reach 0.25 on the TRCR. And based on where we are currently, basically, we have to provide a yearly reduction to reach this 5 years target. It's part of the bonus of each and every senior leaders. What we've been adding very recently, I think it's like 2 years ago now, it's on top of that some more action-oriented individual-based goals. So when you are at senior level, that's not really working, but when you're cascading down this, for example, to plant managers and then to supervisors, operation directors or whatever, these guys will have on top kind of actions that they will be including the targets to achieve actually the TRCR or the number of severe injuries. So not only what they achieve, but how they achieve. So how many audits they've been doing, how many workstation risk assessment they've been completing. So we are completing basically the lagging target with some leading indicators that are related to actions performed by those individuals. The problem I have here is that generally our leaders only react when they see the red. So again, everyone has time limited in the day. So they really focus on what matters much for them at the moment. And if you show this one where it's all zero, I selected this one by purpose, basically they will skip that one and there will be no discussion on safety. Everything is fine. And they will spend the rest of the meeting or the day or the week focusing on the numbers here in red to make them green. So that's why we are, I would say, requiring to have these leading indicators on top of it, because otherwise with this green, there will be nothing done somehow. So you have to put the programs behind the achievement of those numbers and track on completion of those programs. So we have many indicators that I can discuss next time we will have our meeting, but they need to support basically your lagging indicators. Something also, and I can change now the presentation and go more for this next one, which is then when sites are presenting. So you see a bit more leading indicators, the ones that would be more highlighted in orange here. And then we still keep these ones on total recordable case rate, days away case rate, and the number of severe injuries. So we have clear definitions on each of those. It's based on the OSHA rules, and I would say there is very little room for sites to cheat and not report, I would say, to the right level. So in terms of accuracy, it's generally, I would say, quite good. We are, I would say, as EHS leaders, in regular contact with the sites, just to make sure actually that this reporting is done currently, and then all the numbers are popping up, I would say, the right level with our dashboards. The point I want to make here is when I started my career in EHS 25 years ago now in France, we were tracking generally the injury rate, so lost time injuries or recordable injury, but also the severity rates. And now it's not something that we are looking at anymore. So how long the people have been away from work. So it's somehow covered by HR statistics with their absenteeism, but not really anymore by EHS professional in terms of, so what is the actual severity? So when we have a lost time injury, is it just 3 days off for convenience, or is it 3 months because you have a fractured leg? So I'm quite interested as well here to hear from others about if they are following those severity rates still, because that's something that has disappeared over the last years, at least for the companies I've been working for. I think that's basically it in terms of what I was willing to mention. Now we are also tracking some environmental indicators that would be for me also lagging. That would be, for example, the greenhouse gas emissions, waste quantities, water releases. So all of those as well are appearing in our dashboards, and this is something that we are tracking in terms of measuring our environmental performance.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Does anyone have some questions for Richard, please?
I do. Hi, Richard. Your last comment about severity rate or severity, measuring severity of accidents. So, I mean, we are all aware that different places have different cultures, and sometimes for the same injury, in some countries there would be 3 days sick leave, and in some other countries there would be 3 months. So that has been for me a major issue in terms of reporting severity. But still, I believe personally it's important to be able to highlight whether we have a lot of injuries that are fairly minor and whether we have some injuries that stand out in terms of their severity, because we also measure total injury frequency rate. So how do you bring this nuance to your management without somehow talking about the number of days lost?
So for us today, we are just looking at this number of severe injuries. So there is a definition according to OSHA, and Eaton has also his own tweaks around that. But basically, yeah, we are looking at whether people would have suffered fractured, amputation, concussion. So there are a certain number of triggers that would define what we consider as a severe injury. So we are somehow following the trend on severity on that, but it's not a rate, it's just a number. Across the company today, we are around 100 severe injuries. So sometimes it's, well, I would not call a severe one, but for example, if you have a thermal burn resulted in a medical treatment, that becomes a severe injury. So you can have from there very simple burns, hand or finger burns, where people will go to the doctor and receive some drugs out of the counter, then that would be considered as a severe injury, the same as someone would be exposed to an arc flash, right? So sometimes it can be a bit misleading, but that's actually the way we measure the severity of our, I would say, injuries in the organization, counting the number of those that are falling into the definition. And we've been introducing recently, 2 years ago, as John also mentioned, this high potential that we call potentially severe injuries at Eaton, that allow us as well to start to be a bit more proactive as well and leading, kind of leading indicators on this as well, I believe.
Okay, is there?
This is Fred. Any useful indicator for health, like, I don't know, dust or...
No, we don't have today an indicator in regards to occupational health. There are some ergonomic assessment, and we have a tool actually which is allowing us to basically characterize and risk assess all our workstation, and there is a kind of a risk score. So we can, at I would say, plant level, look at all our workstations, understand the one that have the highest risk, and work on this one as a priority. But this is not something that we escalate and follow as an indicator for the company.
Okay.
How do people find the definitions of your total recordable incidents? You're using OSHA definitions, are you, across the whole organization because you're American? So what happens if you're outside the US, and so you're reporting nationally a different type of system? Does that cause a lot of confusion?
So in the reporting tool that we are using, it's somehow organized around the OSHA rules. So when you are reporting into the system, and based on basically the answers and the criteria you fill in there, it will automatically report and escalate whether it's recordable or not. But then there is just a function for you to basically tag that particular event as locally reportable. And then you can create your local numbers from the system using this tag somehow. But the ones that you will be reporting centrally will be all related to the OSHA definitions.
Okay.
I believe also that
we have the same.
I believe also the are based on the OSHA regulation, the definition of severity injuries.
Probably. Yeah, that's based on the.
Okay, that's what we have. Okay.
Alberto, I've made you co-host.
Thank you.
Would you like to take over?
Let
me see.
Richard.
Yes, Dave.
Yes, Richard. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
I've got a couple of things for you. First of all, I appreciated your comment.
Okay.
You suggested that IOSH think about promoting the use of.
Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay. Yes. So now here.
I'll come to you in a second, Richard. I think we're getting interrupted here in a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes. So.
Before you start,
unfortunately, I have much more slides, but I will be as quick as possible, and I will focus only on what is I believe is important. So, lagging indicator. So, as although the company, we also report the total case, and they are aware from work cases. So, different from, I guess, other company, we divide the reporting and the performance for employees and contractor, even if the total recordable rate in the incident rate is combined together. So the reason why we divided employees and contractor is because we have a big number of contractors on site, and this is something that we see importance in order to address later and the corrective action and preventive action if then the EHS performance are based on, and the increasing of the incident are based on contractor or employer. So in addition to the injuries and illness, we also report the incident. So we have a classification of the incident in accordance with the API standard. So DuPont is a chemical company, so we follow a lot of the API regulation, and so the threshold and all the definition of incident for process safety, fire, environmental, and distribution electrical are based on the classification of the OSHA and of the IP standard. In addition, we also track the environmental deviation, because especially as for the company, we're an American company, so we are regulated by the OSHA, and our internal policy and our internal standard are based mainly on the OSHA requirement. So that's why we also report the environmental, and we keep track of the environmental deviation as per OSHA regulations. So in this sense, we report the quantity release, the permit exceedance, any administrative deviation and so on. In addition, that is not mentioned here, but I would like to share with you as a lagging indicator that we report are the result of the second party audit. So the second party audit are internal audit, EHS internal audit, what we do with the auditors, and we report the overdue corrective action and the overdue corrective action that are considered repeating over the years. So those are mainly the lagging indicator that we report. On corporate, I work in the corporate level, so these are the leading indicator that we report on a corporate level. Every site might have an internal, so might have a more detailed reporting system, which is due to a continuous improvement and to track the continuous improvement of the site, and also to lead the implementation of the leading indicator and of the performance of the site. Like I guess other company, we at the end we report the total recordable incident rate on a rolling of 12 months. So every month we report this globally, and we share broadly to all the business and all the operational side. The reporting of, as I said before, the reporting of the total recordable incident rate is a combine between employer and contractor rates. And as I didn't mention before, we have a continuous improvement program in DuPont for a decreasing of the injuries of 10% on the previous year, and 20% on the severity on the incident and injuries on the injuries and on the injuries over the previous year. So we have put in place a continuous improvement program to reduce the total recordable rates total recordable incident rate every year. Just to quickly share with you of what are the main recordable injuries and illness that we have. So we have mainly, and we see since several years, the line of fire, the slip, trips and fall, and ergonomics as the major concern in DuPont for several years. So that's why we have specific campaign and safety campaign in place to reduce the index and the number of injuries and illness in regards to these three topics. I mean, I'll be sharing this information with you, but I try to step a little bit further on the lagging indicator, and I would like to share with you how we advance the prevention of injuries and of incident. So first of all, every incident is require an investigation and root cause failure analysis. This is only for all the type of incident, and also for the prescriptive incident that we have defined internally, and also for the near miss incident that we have recorded in our database. Another important point that we see really beneficial for the organization is a broadly sharing of the investigation result. So every incident shall be broadly communicated, and every site or every organization that is responsible of the investigation needs to leverage the learning result broadly to all the other sites. Another important advanced prevention measure that we put in place to reduce the incidents are the categorization of the recordable injuries. So there is a categorization in DuPont in regards to behavioral error types. So we define basically 3 levels of error types in an incident: fundamental, specification, and performance. This is basically give us a good track on setting the right leading indicator after the evaluation. An additional measure that we are in place to advance prevention is running a global safety campaign. We see really beneficial, especially end safety campaign, ergonomics, fire safety, process safety, and we have implemented also, based on the incident, training to employees, specific training for what we call high-risk activities, so like the presenter from Italy was presenting before. So some activity are classified as high-risk activities. So in accordance with the OSHA, require more attention and require more tracking of the severe incident. We also give, yes, we integrate also a behavioral observation for the high-risk activity, and we enhance employees' engagement for the specific the high-risk activity, and we see beneficial the reinforcement and the power of the employees on stop and discontinue work activity when the risk is not acceptable. And we train people to have a proper evaluation of the risk. Quickly example of which management system are in DuPont are mainly involved in the incident. So we see that most of the incidents are related to several management systems. So and especially we put a lot of attention and we focus on the leadership responsibility. Some example of leadership responsibility that can lead to an incident are, yes, inadequate frequency of inspection, something related to the culture. So some leadership thinks that working outside the standard and the procedure is a normal, is accepted now and is a normal work practice. So this is something that where we see and where we see that our management system has failed or is failing. Another important example of that I would like to share with you in regards to leadership causes of incident and injuries are a non-proper hazard awareness tool that is being utilized. So missing of reinforcing of the safety work permit, and for sure inadequate communication to the employer. So all those are causes that are we consider related to the leadership, to a low commitment and accountability from the leadership, and we, based on our evaluation of the incident, internal evaluation of the incident, we see the leadership commitment and accountability of the leadership as one of the main drivers to reduce the total recordable incident rates. We see also a strong relation between lagging and leading indicator. So based on our assessment, we see that the injury severity is a function of the severe, is basically can be considered as a function of the severe injuries and fatalities. There is a strong correlation with the implementation of the corrective action and the preventive action with the injury reduction. We see also really a strong relation between the end injuries incident tracking and the training that we offer to the operator and to the operator, to the employees. And we focus on the, especially for end injury, which for a chemical company is one of the leading incident that we see in our company. We see that the exposure draw down with the number of end injuries by having specific audit on this company. How we know that we are moving to the right direction is we see employees becoming more often to give feedback to the leadership team, site leadership team. We see an increase of participation on the face-to-face training and offered by the corporate. We see an implementation during every meeting of a sharing of a new core value content that can be incident or just topics that are presented by the team members. And we see also a reduction of the risk behaviors, of increase of the safe behaviors, and of course we see and as a leading indicator that we are moving to the right direction. We see an improvement of the housekeeping and of course a reduction of the incident in our recordable database. Any questions? Sorry.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes, I have a quick, just a question, please. For I wanted to ask Richard this question before, and I'd like to ask Alberto the same question. The question that I have for both of you, if I may, and I know we're running toward the end of the seminar, to what extent, and Richard, you brought up earlier this whole idea, as I was trying to say a few minutes ago, that IOSH could be a tool to promote the use of lagging indicators worldwide, and perhaps even development or stronger focus on lagging indicators, leading indicators worldwide. But to both of you, to what extent, and I realize that you just showed this, Alberto, a second ago, and are your lagging indicators a springboard to developing leading indicators, and how can we, and maybe this is a subject for another seminar, how can we change the focus and bring the focus to leading indicators so we get management to focus on what we can do in a positive way rather than a negative way? And if you could just give me 2 minutes before you release everybody, I'd like to hear from both speakers on this, Alison.
I can share. I believe that the build-up of a structure of lagging indicator is the base frame for a good and useful leading indicator. So without the data, the raw data coming from the lagging indicator in terms of incident and the categorization of the injuries and the illness. So I guess the implementation and of the in a EHS organization, the implementation of the leading indicator would be, I would say, incomplete, or would miss the raw data that are needed to build the correct leading indicator. So I'm making an example. So like I said before, in DuPont, we have three main, since several years, we have three topics that are really reported as a major cases of incidents. So slip, trip, and falls, so line of fire, and ergonomics. So based on those data, raw data, and based on the screening of those raw data, we have been able to implement an hand safety campaign and give some tools and develop some tools to the site to drive to share with the operator and also with the site leadership team in order to improve that specific topics and that specific cause of the incident. So I believe that a robust lagging indicator is the base for the leading, and the leading indicator is an implementation of the leading indicator based on an appropriate raw data from lagging indicator can be I would say the winning point to really reduce the result and to engage the site leadership team. So another important thing that I see on the leadership team is the operational discipline. So the operational discipline can be only given by a robust data of lagging indicator.
Hey, can I just hear from Richard quickly before we?
Sorry.
Yeah, there are two aspects in your question. The first one about the good leading indicators would be, and I agree with what was just said. You need still to keep your lagging indicators and build the leading so that you can achieve the lagging. So basically, the lagging is the where you want to go. So what is your target in terms of performance, and the leading is how. So what are the different programs you put in place and how you measure those to reach your performance. And then the second aspect of the question I understand is how basically to move the needle from our leaders using lagging to leading is basically on the, I would say, what's in there for them, right? So what is the benefit for them to focus more on leading? So if we manage to switch, for example, the incentives they have only based on the lagging, but more on the combination at least of and real balance of lagging and leading, I believe this is where we will start to see the shift in the companies. But if we still have only the lagging as the incentives, then it's unlikely that we will move.
Thank you. Alison, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, we have hit 3 o'clock, but if there were a few questions, particularly for Alberto, then we could do that before we finish.
I have a question to all. Thank you very much for the presentations, for the 3 presentations, very interesting. And it gives a good view on what we believe are important indicators to sort of get this feeling about what is real, what I was mentioning at the beginning. I have a question on how do you educate your leadership in understanding the lagging indicators, what they mean, what they really mean, that sometimes they are the reflection from things happening or things not happening. How do you educate them? And how do you how do they drive the performance based on the lagging indicators? For example, we have seen, I believe all of us once at least in our career, oh my God, we had an accident, who failed, who's to blame? Who needs to get fired? So how do we educate them to understand the indicators, and how do we educate them to actually take the right sort of actions after reviewing performance against these indicators?
In the point, we have initial training that has to be given to all the new employees in regards to EHS performance. So there is a module that is given for the it's called I don't know, is management of changes personnel. So every people that enter in DuPont, they have a set of training that they have to be taken in the first 3 months. So, and there is a specific training for EHS performance. So in this way, we know that everybody in the organization is familiar with the performance and with the EHS performance metrics. And so, and then there is, of course, during the development of the career of the people, there is specific training that are offered based on the assignment, based on the assignment and based on the responsibility. This is something that is really common for the American company, I believe, because it's part of the OSHA requirement of having a MOC personnel, so management of change personnel, when you get a new assignment or you get in a new position also within your organization or within a different business organization.
Thank you.
Well, maybe for SR Techniques, I can add that we've made our reporting public. So this is on the intranet. Everybody can go in there and check where we are at any given time. This is an automated system, SAP together with our reporting system. And in addition, all the senior managers, they get a one-to-one introduction with me. And I explain to them what everything means and what it means for them. And we have introduced a cascading objectives process, because before that, it was just everybody had -2%. Now, what does a cleaning lady do with -2%? He has no way to influence that number. So we've introduced a training and that all the leaders have to do so that they can give meaningful SMART targets for everybody to cascade or to break down the big the leadership team has. And so far, it's been working well.
Thank you.
Public was a big issue, let me tell you that. Everybody said, no, no, no. I said, yes, yes, yes. And now everybody thinks it's a good idea that everybody at any time can check it out.
Thanks.
What we do, Nicola, is like get a bit more one-to-one with leaders. So as a division of business EHS leader, when you have a new leader coming in the team, you're basically the time to go through all of those indicators together with him or her, just to explain exactly what it means, what's important for that particular person, and so on.
Thank you. Because one of the major caveats of having lagging indicators, especially on accidents, is a leader who would have performance, or her personal performance associated with that indicator would be that they could simply kill the reporting. We have seen this, I think, all of us at least once, and training is an interesting one, but I think the one-to-ones that you're explaining and making the indicators public for everyone to understand them and to see what they mean, I think these are very good tips. Training is a great thing to do. I think the one-to-one to actually answer questions and to really explain in detail what the indicators mean, I think it can be a game changer. So thanks for that.
Now in Switzerland, it's really easy to make sure that people don't cheat on reporting. All you have to do is you have to go with the money. So what I do once in a while, I check the reports to the accident insurers against my internal reporting. Because if they don't report it to the accident insurer, they will not get the money. So everybody reports that. Because that's
a good point.
The doctor says, what is your accident number? So they report there. So I started comparing, and if it didn't match, then I marched over there and says, where's your accident? So it took maybe half a year until they understood that there's no cheating.
But or not, it seems I don't want to be a manager in SR Techniques who tries to cheat on the numbers.
Excellent, well done, Giselle. Excellent.
No, but seriously, in Switzerland, it's quite easy. I remember during my time in Holcim, in some countries, wasn't that easy.
Yeah, that's what we see. I mean, in some countries, we see a definite desire for some managers to suppress the message, to suppress the report. And so, nothing happens, just go away. And it's a very interesting point. Thank you.
We have no accident in Malaysia, for example. Zero. They don't use Band-Aids, nothing. So obviously there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah. Can I ask Alberto about, he has a lot of contractors working on his site. So when you're selecting contractors and looking at their lagging indicators as one of the criteria there, how are you judging them? I mean,
in the point we have an internal policy for contractor. Is a contractor safety, and every site needs to have a contractor administrator. So the contractor administrator process is defined in 6 levels, where we have an identification of the contractor, a pre-qualification of the contractor, then we follow to the next step, that is an evaluation of the result of the contractor, and then every site needs to give a performance and rating of the contractor. So it's a 6 steps qualification process, which is managed by a site local, it's called site contract administrator. And this is the way to select the contractors. And a rating gives some the quality in terms of safety, the quality of the performance of the contractor. So we distinguish the contractor from employees just because to address our leading indicator on the right direction. Employees, it's much easier to control because we have internal training program and so on. Contractor is something that comes from outside. So if we see an increase of contractor cases or recordable cases, it means that we have a lack of the safety, the handling and the management of the contractor safety on site, on a specific site, in a specific business or operation center.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
They sound good. Okay.
Okay. So we've come to, it's nearly 1:15 now. Is this a good time to finish? Does anyone have a last question that is going to burn away at them? No, great. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very, very much, everyone, particularly for the 3 speakers. It's great to see this information. I've just learned so much more from you and your personal experiences than a textbook could ever show you. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Great meeting.
Great, thank you. We'll go on next to lagging indicators, and then we'll see if we want to go on and do further sessions after that. If people want to propose topics that they'd like to discuss, then that would be good. Okay, thank you very much for joining.